Welcome back, students. I'm going to be talking about our lecture for tomorrow on the solution for each system of inequalities. Taking from what we already learned, we know that a system of inequalities can have three different answers. When it comes to system of inequalities, the answers lie in the space where both shaded regions cross. If both shaded regions do not cross, there is said to be no solution. So let's go ahead and see how this example works. Remember, there's three different ways to graph an equation or inequality. We could use the modified t-table, we could use the xy intercepts, or we could use the slope-intercept form. For this example, the easiest method would be the slope-intercept form, as both equations are already in the y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to call this first equation, equation 1, and we're going to go ahead and start working this one. For equation 1, we find that m is equal to 1 over 1 and b is equal to 1. Let's go ahead and graph that one first and move on to the second equation. So we're going to go ahead and start with b, as b is the y-intercept. So b is at 1. So we go back to the origin, we go 1 unit up, and we go ahead and put a dot right there. Now we're going to use the slope to find all additional points. Our slope is 1 over 1 positive, so we go up 1 unit and to the right. Remember, you're always running to the right. Up 1 unit to the right, up 1 unit to the right, and finally up 1 unit to the right. We could also reverse direction if we wanted to, and instead of going up, we would go down, but then we would have to go left instead of right to keep everything consistent. And we keep going until all the dots are on the graph. Of course, there's no need to do this, as once you get the first few dots on the graph, you can see what's going on. Now, our next interesting point would be, is this inclusion or exclusion for graph number 1? So we come up here and we look at the comparison operator, and we notice that the comparison operator is a inclusion. That means our line needs to be solid. So let's go ahead and draw a solid line between all these points. And I always make the line a little bit farther than my dots. Put my arrows on both sides. And now we're ready to check for the half plane for equation 1. So we're going to call this half plane number 1. So we come over here and we say, all right, the easiest point I could check would be a point not on the graph that's very easy to work with, and 0, 0 would be a great choice. So we're going to check 0, 0. So we take the equation we started with, which is y is greater than or equal to x plus 1, plug in 0 for x, 0 for y, simplify both sides, and we see that this is a true statement. That means this region is the region that we need to shade in, because that's the region that contained our dot, and you always shade toward the dot. Well, now we're getting ready to do equation number 2. So for equation number 2, I see that m is equal to, oh, did you notice there's no x? So m has to be equal to 0. And you notice that b is equal to negative 1. When m is equal to 0, we need a horizontal line. So if I put my first point at y equals negative 1, y equals negative 1, I realize that I need a horizontal line cutting right through, and I know it's a little hard to see, so maybe I'll make one more pass so you can see it. Cutting through -1 on both sides. All right, now we just need to check for our half plane for equation number 2. Well, did you notice that 0, 0 is not on the line? So again, this is the best ordered pair to check. Always check the easiest ordered pair that is not on the line. Well, since this only has a y and it has no x, all I have to do is replace this y with 0. And we look and realize, hey, this is true. Therefore, it is a true statement. Since it's a true statement, I'm going to shade toward that point. So I'm going to come over here and shade toward that point. Now, you are only interested in where both regions cross, and if you look really closely, both regions cross right here in this little small wedge. Well, since they only cross in that small wedge, we say that the answer to the system of equations y is less than or equal to x plus 1 and y is greater than or equal to -1 is in that double shaded region. Hope this video helps. Hope you'll be ready for tomorrow's class. Have a good evening.